Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr., and joining me is the force that is Gary Whitta.
Good morning, Blessing. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I was somebody pointed out to me today. It's actually the 4-year anniversary of Rogue One being released in theaters. So I've been getting a lot of nice tweets today. It's quite
It is. Congratulations.
quite gratifying. Yes.
Yeah, you retweeted that. I forget. It might have been like Nerdist with like some of the shots from that movie, and man, like that movie is really pretty.
It's a good looking movie.
Yeah. One of my favorite Star Wars movies. Very good movie. Gary, I want to compliment you on your Christmas getup. I really appreciate the Fall Guys Christmas sweatshirt.
You know what? I got to tell you, this is my favorite Christmas sweater. The Fall Guys people. Thank you very much to the Fall Guys people for sending this to me. You can also buy it on their merch store. It's my favorite Christmas sweater, and I've been getting a lot of compliments on it. It's very festive. It's very warm and soft. Like, this is not one of those like shitty Christmas sweaters that they like throw out there just to cash in. It's a quality item, Blessing. It's a quality item, and I'm very, very happy with it. And I wish, honestly, that I could reciprocate the festive compliments back at you, but like you're not looking festive at all. What is going on?
Here's the thing. October is my month of getting festive during the year, you know, because I'm such a big Halloween fan, as everybody knows. And so I put all my eggs in that basket. I figure for Christmas, for December time, I got to lean off of it because I don't want people making the accusations that Blessing is the Christmas guy. Kind of funny. I don't want to deal with that weight on my shoulder. I don't want to like make that claim at all. I don't want people to mistakenly make that.
And
claim.
You would never get there. You could never defeat the true Christmas champions at Kind of Funny.
Of course,
like,
it's you and Kevin.
Me and Greg, and like who are the other big Christmas fanboys at Kind of Funny?
I believe Kevin Coelho claims that
I can believe that. I can believe that.
He really loves Christmas. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna say this right now. I think Kevin is the biggest Christmas fan at Kind of Funny.
Now, Joey Noel's name is literally Joey Noel, which I'm pretty sure is a Christmas name.
Her birthday.
Her birthday is Christmas Day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to get more Christmassy than that. I mean, it's too late now, but I would happily go head to head with Kevin next year in like a Kind of Funny Christmas battle royale to see
I want to see that.
The true king of Christmas. Oh, I'd destroy him.
Oh man, shots fired. Kevin Coelho, if you're watching this, which he's not, I want to see the return.
And I love Kevin.
Speaking of Christmas, I got a question here from Ray Briggs II, who writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can, and says, "Hey, Blessing and Gary, happy final Widow Wednesday of 2020. With the break coming up, what is your catch-up game you're going to try and get into or back into this Christmas? I feel like we all tell ourselves the lie of a game we are going to get back to and finish now that we all have the time. So, what is your lie? I am totally going to get back to finishing Final Fantasy Remastered. Thanks, and have a wonderful and restful break with your family and friends. Merry Christmas." Gary Whitta, do you have any Christmas plans when it comes to gaming?
I have such a big backlog. I know we were going to talk about Cyberpunk at some point today. One of the arguments I've been making about Cyberpunk is that I'm perfectly happy to wait for them to fix it before I play it, because it's not like there's any shortage of games to play right now. My backlog was embarrassing enough before Cyberpunk even came along. I want to get to Yakuza Like a Dragon. I want to get to Final Fantasy VII Remake.
You haven't gotten there yet?
No, it's still sitting there. And I don't know if it got any kind of performance boost on PlayStation 5 or anything, because obviously that's what I would play it on now. Or if they're going to do any kind of glow up at some point. I should look into that, but I do want to get to it. Let me ask you this, Blessing. What do you think is more shameful? The game that you bought and never even got to, because we all have those, or the game that you like got 3/4 through but never finished? Like, which one shames you more?
Here's the thing. I think when you get 3/4 through a game and don't finish it, I feel like it's more on the game at that point rather than you. Like, because that's happened to me quite a few times with games. I think that was me with Devil May Cry 5, the latest one. I got 3/4 of the way through it, and I loved my time with it. But at a certain point, I was just like, I'm not that interested anymore. Like, I feel like I've gotten my experience out of this, and I don't feel motivated to see this thing through the end.
Yeah,
and
it's always sad when a game peters out like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I feel like when it comes to games that you buy and don't start up, that's more so of a thing of, all right, I'm just not motivated yet, and I expect to be motivated at a certain point, but you just never get there. And I feel like that's more on me than the game of buying a thing and planning to play it and never playing it.
The biggest one for me is Persona 5. Joey knows this. Some other Kind of Funny people know this. I loved, and still love Persona 5. It was probably my favorite game of that year. but I never finished it. It's so epically massive, and I got all the way to like the last Mind Palace or whatever it is they call it.
Oh man!
And I loved everything about that game. I loved the music. I was listening to the music on my iPod all the time. I just loved hanging out in the coffee shop. I just loved being in that world, and I loved everything about that game. But it's so epically big. I remember finishing like the first mission and thinking, man, this is a pretty big game. I must be like halfway through it by now, though. And they're like, well, you're pretty much done with the tutorial. I'm like, what the fuck? This game is huge. And so I never finished it, but there is redemption in the face of the Royal. I picked up the Royal. I think it's the only game I've ever bought twice. I bought the game twice. I bought the original Persona 5 and then I bought the Royal because I feel like that's what, rather than push through and finish Persona 5 like regular, I'm just going to start over in the Royal and like experience it all over again. This time I'm actually going to finish it.
Very good decision. My recommendation is you're going to notice some new characters, and to get to the new stuff, you're going to have to do as much as you can with those new characters. That is something a lot of people tweeted at me like, I missed out on the platinum and I missed out on the new story stuff because I didn't hang out with some of these new characters.
So what are the big differences? What is the big new stuff that the Royal adds?
It's an overall improved game. Like there are certain gameplay mechanics that are improved. Like there are added battle systems that just make that experience overall smoother. And then there's new story stuff. They add an extra semester to the year, and so instead of ending in December, the game ends a few months after, and all that stuff is very additive, and I think makes for
as if that game wasn't big enough already.
So it adds an extra palace, and it gives like 3 more solid weeks of gameplay, because in the base game you kind of like went from December to I think like March, and like kind of like you went to like very specific dates, and you're like skipping a lot and just getting to very specific moments until the end of the school year, and so it adds a little more into January, into going into February. Completely changes kind of the ending of the game, and that was something I was personally worried about because I love the ending of Persona 5, and I didn't know if they could like improve that. I knew it was going to be different, and somehow I love the ending of Royal even more. Yeah,
let me ask you this on a question of like gaming ethics, especially given that I already played through much of the first game. Do you think if I want to get everything possible out of Persona 5, because I always have this anxiety, like, am I missing content? Like, if I didn't go down that avenue, did I miss like a big chunk of like content that I want to see? I really want to get the most out of the game. Do you think it's cheating? Or is there anything shameful in playing through that using a guide to make sure that you see everything?
Not at all. This is maybe my only complaint. It's not even like a complaint. It's just like a qualm I have with the way I like to play games. Is I feel like in order to play Persona 5 the perfect way, you have to use a guide. And the game almost encourages you to use a guide in some ways if you want to get the most out of it. That said, Persona 5, I think, is set up in a very fascinating way where so much of what you're leveling up and so much of what you're doing gameplay-wise isn't necessarily communicated to you in a very a visible way, where like you're upgrading your stats, you're building your confidants, right? But like that stuff isn't like displayed to you in a way where you're like, okay, cool, I'm 5 away from upgrading my my confidence stat or whatever.
And like especially in Royal, like some of the new added stuff that they want you to focus on in like the battle system, they don't really tell you like how important some of these things are, like the baton pass and some of the extra things that you kind of need to utilize like for certain boss fights. So I think like a guide, like you should totally go that route.
Because I did it a little bit on the first one. Like I straight up cheated on the tests. Like I went and found like the answers to the tests. And I did look up the guide for like some of the conversation trees to make sure I got like the result that I wanted. And sometimes I feel like I'm cheating, but I don't know. It's my game. I bought it. It's my money. I can do what I want.
Yeah. And fun fact for the test, this is something I didn't realize until late into the original Persona 5. If you are, well, I guess this doesn't work for the exams, but for whenever you're getting questions asked in class, if you press the touchpad, it'll bring up the percentages of people on your friends list and what answer they chose.
So it's not just a friends list. It's like, I think it's all
Everybody who's played the game.
Yeah, everybody who's played the game who's uploaded like what they have done, because you have to like enter into that like Phantom Thieves Guild net or whatever.
That's true.
Yeah, so then you can pretty easily get
but yeah,
the
because of that,
there.
like that saved me so much time in terms of Googling stuff, because I would Google every single answer in Persona 5, and I realized I was spending so much time on that. And when I learned that I could just press the touchpad and figure out the percentages and get the right answer every time off of that, saved me so much time.
Also, Royal improves visual stuff. I think it's like 4K supported and stuff like that, because the original was built originally for PS3, and so they're like it was on PS4 Pro, but it didn't have like any PS4 Pro enhancements. So overall, just like it looks better, it looks cleaner, and yeah, there's just like there's a lot of like quality of life fixes that make what I already thought was a really smooth experience even smoother.
I'm excited. All I have to do is like I have to make the decision that like when I boot it up, like this is I'm ready. Like the next couple of months is like this is what I'm playing, because I'm really determined to see it through, to the end this time. But it's a big commitment. It's a massive game.
It is. And with Persona 5, I do not blame you for not finishing that game, because that game is way too long. Persona is way too long, and I love it. And like I put all the hours into it, and I abided by that. But again, it is one of those things where if Persona was any other game, by the time I got to hour 70 or 80, I'd be like, fuck this, I'm out. But because it's Persona and I love Persona, I give it that. I give it those hours.
It's my favorite game, and yeah, they could have cut it. They could have cut a palace.
They could have cut out so much, specifically the Okumura Palace that didn't need to be there. But to answer Ray Brick's question, for me, I got a list of games that I'd like to get to. Realistically, probably not going to get to. Like I have like a triple threat of PlayStation games I want to play, being Days Gone, Concrete Genie, and The Order 1886. Because as somebody who really likes
that's
PlayStation,
a really like random trifecta of games.
It is, but it's for me, it's the fact that like I like PlayStation, and I'm on a PlayStation podcast, and like Concrete Genie, I've heard such good things about, and it seems like a great comfort game, and it seems like a game I could fall in love with, and I don't need to play that at launch, right? It's not like a big conversation that's happening around that game. Days Gone, I feel like it's such a big PlayStation title for the generation, and knowing that there's such fan fervor for that game, I kind of want to check it out to see if I would get into it, because I kind of wrote it off because of reviews and all that stuff, and I feel like that's one I should at least try out for that. And then The Order 1886, it's a short game, and like I'm kind of in the mood right now to shoot things in games. I think that's just because coming off of Cyberpunk 2077, I love the gunplay in that game, and so I kind of want to do that. But then aside from those, 13 Sentinels is a game that I started and didn't get extremely far in, and I want to get further in that. Genshin Impact is another one that I really liked what I played of it, and I want to get further in. And then Bloodborne is always the game that's like floating around at the back of my head that I always want to get back to, but I keep delaying it. Right now, last week I jumped back into Bloodborne, and I'm in the Forbidden Woods, and there are these snake creatures that are the most terrifying things I think I've seen in a video game, and they are making me not want to make progress in Bloodborne, and so I'm trying to reckon with that. I think I might stream Bloodborne on my personal channel, and so
it's an interesting conversation.
Blessing Jr.
Yeah,
it's an interesting time to be having this conversation about tackling our backlogs as we, kind of straddle these two generations, right? We're at the beginning of the new generation right now, but there's still a bunch of what are now last gen games that we didn't get to yet. Like I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake. You're talking about Days Gone. Those are relatively recent games that are still in our backlogs. But now we're on this next gen console. Part of what is giving me pause about jumping in is like I kind of want to see, like, certainly with these big titles like Final Fantasy VII, like Days Gone, which was a big game last generation. There's a good chance they might get like a PS5 glow up, right? And so I kind of want to wait to see if that's going to happen before I jump in, because if I'm going to do it, having that next gen improvement would be a great incentive. So okay, now I'll go play it. But maybe I should do my research and see like what games might be getting those glow ups, and what I don't know how open they're being about like what games they might be going back and retooling for PS5.
Well, Gary, speaking of games that need improving, today's stories include even more CD Projekt Red drama, UK politicians doing something about scalpers, and more, because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kinda Funny Games Daily. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, PS I Love You XOXO is recording this Friday, and it's the PS I Love You Awards. So go over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames and write in with your picks for the best of in PlayStation in 2020.
And just as a reminder, don't go over to Patreon. Go over to kindafunny.com/PS Awards. That'll send you to a Google thing that you can write into. You don't need to be a Patreon supporter to submit.
Very, very good call, Barrett. And of course, you can write in with your picks for the categories we have. You can write in with your the categories you want me and Greg to debate and argue. It'll be a good time. And of course, that episode, I believe, will go up next week at the normal time. Thank you to our Patreon producer, Blackjack. Today, we're brought to you by Upstart, HBO Max for the holidays, and Brooklinen. But I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is and forever will be the Roper Report.
Before I do the beep, did you see what I slacked you, Les?
No, let me look over there.
While you look over there,
it's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
A baker's dozen.
And as I stall for time, as I look at this thing, Barrett slacked me.
What do you got? Late breaking news?
We got some.
Okay, no,
news.
this is in the Roper Report.
Oh,
it's like it's story number 6. Yeah, I have it under a weird source, but basically, yeah, this tweet that you're sending me confirms it. And so we'll get there.
Okay.
If you could actually, Barrett, if you could copy and paste that link under the last story, so I can reference it when I get there, that would be awesome. But let's start at the beginning, though. The CD Projekt saga continues somehow. Story number 1, GOG nixes the re-release of horror game Devotion. This is from Nicole Carpenter at Polygon. CD Projekt-owned storefront GOG is pulling horror game Devotion mere hours after it was announced for the platform. Red Candle Games' Devotion received critical acclaim for its intimate familial horror, but it was only available on Steam for 6 days before it was removed from Valve's storefront, meaning tons of people never got to play it. Devotion may never come back to Steam, but it was getting a re-release through GOG.com on December 18th, Taiwanese developer Red Candle Games announced on Twitter this morning. Then, GOG published an update to Twitter announcing it will no longer publish Devotion. GOG tweeted the following, quote, "Earlier today, it was announced that the game Devotion is coming to GOG. After receiving many messages from gamers, we have decided not to list the game in our store," end quote. Devotion was removed from Steam shortly after its release date in February 2019 after a meme critical of Chinese President Xi Jinping, which compared his likeness to Winnie the Pooh, was discovered in the game. Chinese players began review bombing the game on Steam before Devotion was eventually pulled for a quote, complete QA check, end quote, the developer said at the time. The game never returned. Red Candle Games has apologized multiple times for its critical and unprofessional error that angered Chinese fans. With hundreds of replies already, reactions to the announcement tweet have been broadly negative, with many assuming that GOG is bowing to political pressure given the alleged Chinese government reaction that saw Devotion delisted from Steam last year. It marks another controversial moment in a turbulent week for GOG owner CD Projekt, which has also been scrambling to explain an increasingly difficult launch for Cyberpunk 2077. Gary Whitta, how do you react to all of this?
Well, so far as the Devotion thing is concerned, I think it's sad and somewhat predictable, because we've seen the very powerful influence that China can have when games or gamers or any kind of art form or media expresses any kind of sentiment that might displease the Chinese government, and that's really sad. We saw it in the NBA, we saw it at we've seen it in the esports, the Blizzard tournaments. Yep. We've seen many examples of this now, and this is just the latest one. My initial thought was like, this could actually end up being good for this. I had never heard of this game until this controversy kind of put it on the front page. And I read a little bit about it today. I read a piece on Vice about it. I read some of the stuff that our good friend Rebecca Valentine posted on Twitter this morning. I was like, wow, this actually sounds like a really cool game. How did I miss this? And it's this controversy. This is a game that could have come and gone, but it's now everyone's talking about it. if the question is who would publish it at this point. I feel like it's a fixable issue. They shouldn't have to fix it, but it's not the issue. It seems to be one particular instance of a meme that seems like it could be easily removed from the game, and then maybe publishers again. Maybe there's a publisher somewhere that would step up and actually publish it here in the US. I don't know if they can get it back on Steam or if GOG would publish it. Epic, I'm guessing, is a long shot considering their own Chinese business interests. It's just another shitty situation where business and politics fuck everything up. It makes me sad, but I'm hoping that there could be like some kind of silver lining at the end of this, that this controversy actually does kind of put the game on the race. Certainly did for me. Again, I'd never heard of it until this morning. I actually would really like to play it. If someone wants to publish it, I'll go buy it and play it and stream it because it could be really cool. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is upsetting. Like I've seen, I'm like you, right? Where this story was the thing that alerted me to this game, and going on and researching it, right? It's very obvious that people really like the game. The game seems to be the game seems to be quality. The studio seems to do quality work. I think to what you said about they could just like remove it or whatever and have it work that way. I wouldn't even be surprised if they did, because they mentioned here in the story that Red Candle Games has apologized multiple times for the quote critical and unprofessional error, right? And like if you're uploading the game for purchase, you'd imagine that they would edit it so that they wouldn't run into the same controversy, or maybe not, who knows? Maybe they've realized that they can double down on it because it is freedom of speech. It is them owning their product and not giving into this political pressure that's being bestowed upon them. I think the fact that GOG came out and tweeted their tweet is very upsetting because it's worded in a way that I feel like is very just like has no balls whatsoever, right? Like the tweet reading earlier today, it was announced that the game Devotion is coming to GOG. After receiving many messages from gamers, we have decided not to list the game in our store. What does that mean? Why would you put out that statement? I feel like that is the worst possible way to frame a game obviously being taken down because of political pressure. And if that's the case, like say it or sugarcoat it or say something else other than, yeah, gamers messaged us and so we're not putting the game out, because that doesn't explain anything. And that in itself is an upsetting explanation for this.
The part that hasn't been discussed yet, or that was what I read in some of the reporting this morning, was actually quite serious. That the Chinese government revoked the publisher's business license for publishing this game. So the China really came down on them like a ton of bricks. And whether or not they can even republish it, or if the developer would have to go to another publisher now, maybe a US publisher, I don't know. The problem is, who's going to do it? Because everyone's terrified of China. It's almost impossible these days to do large-scale business without China being in the mix somewhere. If you're a major publisher or a sports league, or you're releasing a movie, like the Chinese market is so big that the idea of being frozen out of it is, from a business standpoint, terrifying, and that's scaring off a lot of people. That's why we saw the NBA making all these bullshit mealy-mouthed statements. Remember when that was happening last year, Blessing, with the NBA? And the Hearthstone tournament stuff, and people were getting really upset about it, and rightly so. So no one's got the balls to stand up to China because it's such a big deal. And I think that in this case, it might be particularly an ugly situation because it's a Taiwanese developer, and as I'm sure you know, there's like big political friction between Taiwan and China. They don't get along at all. China really resents Taiwan's independence, and Taiwan really resents China for not, for making such a big deal out of it. And, to the point where, the two nations are practically constantly on the brink of war. So a Taiwanese game publisher pokes fun, even in a very kind of obscure and innocent way at the Chinese government. Yeah, they're going to take that really seriously. It's just unfortunate that, again, because business is so global now, that even here in the supposedly free Western world, we are subject to, the totalitarian, policies of the Chinese government. If they throw a shit fit, we also have, gamers in the US suffer as well. It's fucked up, Blessing.
Yeah, and it feels like GOG here is giving into bullying. Like that's honestly what it feels like. And I saw in chat, right, there, I think there was one or two people that are like, so is the content still in the game or no? And we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, and this is the Chinese government / that user base just bullying the developer because the developer made that. I want to call it a mistake, but obviously it's not a mistake. They put that in there with purpose, right? Like that is part of the content in the game. They did that, and whether or not they're taking it out, either way, I imagine that user base still doesn't want that game out because they did that thing once and that's it for them. We're gonna follow this developer. We're not gonna allow them to put out this game because fuck them. And I don't think that's right. I think that's bullying, and I think GOG here and CD Projekt are giving into it, and I think that's upsetting. And so
and again, the timing couldn't be. I actually didn't know that GOG was owned by CD Projekt. Apparently, I just saw in chat there's apparently an interesting no-clip documentary about it. I should look into that. But yeah, like this is the last. Not that they. And I'm happy to talk about this as a separate issue. Not that they didn't bring it all on themselves. Not that they don't deserve every bit of shit that they're getting right now. They do. But this is the last thing that CD Projekt needed on top of everything else. What a fucking week they're having.
Yeah, and that again, it speaks to that overall narrative of what is happening with CD Projekt and CD Projekt Red and that whole organization over there, where the transition from Witcher 3 coming out and that being one of the biggest games of the generation, one of the most successful games of the generation in terms of both sales and then critical reception, and that game putting them on a map in a way that they become one of the most beloved studios in the industry, to now with this Cyberpunk rollout being a garbage truck on fire, and not in the fun kind of funny way, but in the terrible, like, how is this happening sort of way. This is another unneeded rake in the yard that they've thrown out there, and now they've stepped on. And
it's funny. I almost called this, but like in a jokey way, because I never really believed it. But like, you know, I've been doing kind of Games Daily now for a long time, and often on Witta Wednesdays there'd be some news about Cyberpunk, like the latest delay or the latest Night City Wire. As you know, Blessing, like the hype and the media narrative building up to the release of this game has been unparalleled, right? So like every single conversation about what's the most anticipated game right now, it's Cyberpunk, and it has been for years. And they just started to get this uneasy feeling, like, man, unless this game really is like the fucking second coming, I just feel like we're setting ourselves up for disappointment here. Because like, even if it's really, really amazingly great, it can't possibly match the expectation that we built up for us. Now, CD Projekt Red are responsible for some of that because, well, again, they really, really went. Oh, it feels like they spent as much on marketing as publicity as they did on the game, almost, if not more. I mean, they really went all out with these Night City Wires and like massive, massive events, and they really, really did sell this game to you. But then, a lot of gamers got really carried away with it as well. I mean, there are lots of big influencers and streamers and commentators in the internet space that were really, really going all in on their excitement for this game. I think it really feel like there's a slim chance that we're setting ourselves up here for a massive disappointment. And I can go back and find the clips where I would say to Greg a couple of times, like, man, what if this game is disappointing? That's just going to be like the worst thing ever. But then I kind of waved it off. It's like, but of course not. It's going to be great, right? Witcher 3, CD Projekt, everybody loves them. It looks amazing. Of course it's going to be great. But now look where we are. And the unfortunate thing about it, Blessing, is it was all avoidable. This all could have been avoided.
That's the big thing for me is the game comes out, and I think the game itself is awesome. Like, I really enjoyed my time with Cyberpunk 2077, and that is very much with the caveat of I played it on PC with the review code, right? And there's so many things we can touch on. Like, this is the third day of the headline for Kind of Funny Games Daily, I believe, being something about Cyberpunk or CD Projekt Red, and it being a negative thing, right? And like, on Monday, Tim and Greg had the conversation of how does this launch compare to Anthem, or how does this launch compare to Fallout 76? And it's been that slow burn of, on Monday I kind of wasn't fully there in terms of, this isn't an Anthem launch, right? Like, Anthem had so many things wrong with it, right? And like Fallout 76 had so many things wrong with it. There are so many rakes that those games stepped on. Fallout 76, I will never forget the whole bag fiasco of the special edition, sending out the bag and it being made of the wrong material.
That shitty bag,
bad, yeah. And
what it reminds me of? What it reminded me of, Blessing, is like those memes, like the thing you thought you were ordering on Wish and the thing you actually got, which is like the shitty version of the item that they showed you. That was that Fallout 76 bag. Like, the thing that they showed you online looked like this amazing, like, premium item. The thing that you got looked like one of those 99-cent fucking reusable shopping bags they give you at Trader Joe's.
Yeah, and with CD Projekt Red and with Cyberpunk, like, we're getting there. Like, we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, we're multiple days in a row, and there are multiple different controversies for a game that, in itself, like, when you look at the content and when you look at the merits of the game, I think is a very good game. I think it's awesome. I think there's so many things that game has going for it. But when you zoom out and look at all these things going on around it, when you look at some of the content and how that doesn't live up to like some of the bad parts of the game just straight up don't live up to a lot of the good parts of the game. When you look at the review code situation and how, yeah, you only give review codes out for PC. And I remember like this morning, sitting on it and ruminating on it, I was like, man, this is kind of fucked up, right? The fact that I got this PC review code and I'm experiencing all these bugs. And in my review, like I mentioned that, right? And I talk about it. And I keep giving the caveat of, hey, there's a day one patch, because in that email that they sent us, they talk about the day one patch and we know that it's 50 gigs and all that stuff. And so I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm experiencing these bugs, but hopefully day one they're fixed. The fact that day one comes and you look on the internet and you see all this shit going on in the game, like there's so much in that game that feels like such a betrayal to the fan base, that feels like a betrayal to the consumer base in general, the 8 million pre-orders that game has. It's messed up, and I hate harping on this because I don't like going on negative rants about games, but
it's the biggest story in games right now, and it's an ongoing story because there's like a new wrinkle to it every day with the refunds and everything else. We talked about this a little bit before the show. If it were just a bad game, it would be easier to grok that. I think, like we all know how to respond to games when they're bad. We see that all the time. And what's more frustrating is a game that clearly has greatness in it, but it won't let you get to it because it has all these other flaws that are kind of keeping you at arm's length. Oh man, this game could be so great if they just fixed all this shit. That's even worse in a way. That's even more frustrating. I really want to play Cyberpunk. That looks like a cool world that I want to go spend a lot of time in and be like a cool badass with shit coming out of my arms. And all looks really good to me, but I'm not going to play it. I'm not. I'm going to wait because I have confidence that in 6 months or so, it'll actually be in good shape. And then I'll go, like, there is a good game in there that they can find, and they will get there. I'm confident that there will be a redemption narrative here. And 6 months from now, you'll be seeing, we'll be back here, and the little thumbnail will be Cyberpunk is good now.
Yeah.
But that should have been good at launch. And what baffles me, Blessing, is that it really seemed like they cared. They kept, they would write every time we'd see another one of those little yellow squares on Twitter, oh shit, it's delayed again, right? And we'd read that text. We really want to get this to you in the right show. We're going to delay it one more time. We don't want to crunch our employees, but we want to get you the best version of the game. We're going to delay. So it seemed like they really were interested in this whole philosophy of, this is a really important project to us. We've worked on it for a decade. We're not going to fuck that up at the final hurdle by shipping, an inferior version when we could just wait and ship the right version of the game. But they didn't do that. Even after all the delays, they still shipped a broken, unfinished version of the game, and they acknowledge this now. So much goodwill, so much of the community trust that was placed in them, everything they built up over the years with The Witcher, and just the way that CD Projekt conducts themselves and communicates and interacts with the fan base and the community. So much of that has been pissed away. And it all could have been avoided if they had just fucking waited another, a few more months. Ship it in spring of next year and just wait. I don't know what was the reason. If I worked on this game as a graphic artist or a narrative designer or a programmer or something, and I put blood, sweat, and tears into this game for 8 fucking years, and now this is what I've got, and now this is the result because the suits up on the 20th floor decided they couldn't wait to ship it anymore, and now we're going to deal with all this bullshit, and we don't get to celebrate or feel triumphant about having shipped this amazing thing now it's just a bummer for everyone. That's bullshit. And I don't understand why they waited. Whatever reason they could have given us for but we had to ship it now has been absolutely massively blown away and overshadowed by everything it has now cost them. All of these refunds, the hit to their stock price, the hit to their reputation, the fact that they've bummed out millions of gamers right before Christmas. In a way, maybe it was 2020. Maybe this is the only way that this was going to end in the year 2020. Everything's just fucking cursed. It really, really bums me out. And it also makes me wonder, I don't know, were we blind to this Blessing every time? Why weren't we? Why didn't we hear more people? Maybe there were. I don't know. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the press leading up to it because I wanted to just go in cold to the game. Maybe someone else can speak to this more authoritatively. But were there any people saying why aren't they showing this on base consoles? It feels really hard to believe that something this good would run on a base. Don't forget, the install base.
It's the sucky thing.
Those are the machines that people are most likely to be playing it on, and that's where it's most broken. Totally unacceptable, Blessing.
Yeah, no, once we got closer and closer, it wasn't until we got review codes where we were like, all right, I guess we'll wait for the console version, and the console version never came. And because of embargoes, right, we can't necessarily say that, hey, we have the game, it's only the PC version. We weren't allowed to say that until the day of. People kind of had to suss that out for themselves. And yeah, like that was an issue, right? And as soon as the review article went up, that was the whole conversation around it. Like me and Greg did a whole PS Love You talking about, yeah, the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game might be fucked, and so people might want to hold your pre-orders or hold your orders until you see what people are saying about this thing, because nothing is promised. And sure enough, like, yeah, those versions came out and they weren't polished, they weren't good.
And that's the thing, Blessing, is there's no way they were blindsided by this. There's no way that the developers or the powers that be at CD Projekt Red didn't see this coming. Like, oh really? We thought it ran pretty good. No, you didn't. You fucking knew. You knew it was busted. I mean, I'm watching some of these videos. 20 seconds for textures to draw in. Not even close to being a shippable product. It's more than anything, Blessing, it just baffles me. This is a good company with a strong reputation, and they everything was on the line. This is their biggest game ever, and this is what they shipped. Really? Come on.
Gary, I'm going to keep on the CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk train with story number 2. CD Projekt is adjusting Cyberpunk 2077's distracting amount of dildos. Finally, I've been heard. This is from Nathan Grayson at Kotaku. And before I even get into it, Gary, let me tell you, one of my big flags I've been carrying regarding Cyberpunk 2077 has been about the endless amount of dildos that are present in this game. There are dildos everywhere. Like, the story I keep going back to is toward the finale of the game, toward the ending sequence. I'm fighting a bunch of corpo agents. It's this big moment. It's a serious set piece moment. And I killed one of the agents, and out of him falls a studded dildo. And I like, in that moment, I was like, all right, this might be too much. Like, this might be like overkill in terms of the amount of dildos in this game. I'm going to get into Nathan Grayson at Kotaku, who writes, the first time I stepped out of my character's apartment in Cyberpunk 2077, I expected to be greeted by a vast world of machine-powered possibility. Instead, I found a dildo. In my time with Cyberpunk since, I have stumbled across many, many more dildos. I've taken to documenting every single one I come across. I have screenshotted 29 dildos. So I had to know, why all the dildos, CD Projekt Red? Why? Quote, we wanted Night City to be pretty open sexually, said senior quest designer Philip Weber in an email to Kotaku. Where something by today's standards might be taboo or kinky is very normal and commonplace by 2077 standards. The second reason for the high amount of dildos in the world is because they can spawn as random loot. And we were still tweaking those settings. So, especially during the early reviews, the amount of dildos in the game, the amount of dildos in the game world was pretty high. We're going to adjust them so that dildos don't appear too out of place / context and distracting and more where they should be by design, Weber said, also noting that a recent hotfix may have already adjusted dildo density to an extent. So at the very least, the dildos probably won't stand out quite as much anymore. It's a fun story. I highly recommend people actually go and read Nathan Grayson at Kotaku's full story, because I pretty much clipped out certain parts that were necessary to get the point across. But Nathan Grayson goes into why exactly the dildos are kind of jarring to the overall experience, when it isn't like, oh yeah, there's a dildo in this nightclub, or there's a dildo weapon hidden here, right? It is like they drop his loot when you defeat certain characters, and that can become jarring to the experience when you are playing a game in this quote unquote serious, grounded open world cyberpunk dystopia. And yeah, it's fun to see that apparently, yeah, during the review period, there were more dildo spawning than there seems to be now. And so if you're wondering, a lot of people in chat are shouting out dildo density, which is hilarious. If you're wondering why you haven't seen maybe as many dildos as I've been alluding to, it's because there are more dildos when I was playing the game than when you're playing the game, which I think is hilarious because people are still seeing a lot of dildos. But yeah, Gary, when you get the game, look forward to not seeing as many dildos.
It sounds like by the time I finally get to it, this issue may have been corrected in some way. I may not have the same experience as you. I just want to say I really enjoyed hearing you report on that story, Blessing, because just hearing you say the word dildo like so many times is just like really amusing. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the chat really enjoyed the term dildo density.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I've said dildo.
That was an issue. I mean, this is video game design in the year 2020. Dildo density is now a thing.
I've said the word dildo more times this week than I think I ever have in my life. I've never been more close to the idea of never been more involved in dildo conversation than this week.
I had a week in Vegas in '98 that came close, but yeah, this is up there for sure. Yeah, it's almost as though they set out to ask themselves, what are the most embarrassing problems that we can create for ourselves here? Because they already had this issue with this bug, right, where your character walking around with his cock out apparently half the time. I saw that. That was a big issue. And now, too many dildos. I'm personally not offended by dildos, but too much of anything can be a bad thing, right? If you're just seeing them constantly everywhere, it's like, I get it. This is a sexually, liberated and open society. People are okay with the idea of like dildos, on the street. But like, if you overdo anything, if you hit it on the head too many times, you will, you'll lessen the effect of it. So
yeah, and like if there was like a side quest that alluded to something regarding the dildo industry in Night City and how we created an overabundance of dildos because they were hot in 2069 or whatever, and like in 2076 the dildo industry crashed, but there's this like overabundance of dildos because of that, and because like people didn't know what to do with these things. I feel like it could be a fun bit. I feel like you could do something with that, but it's just the fact that no, dildos just exist everywhere. It's not explained why there's dildos all over the place. And it seems like they knew that because they've adjusted it already. In that, I assume the day one patch.
What do you do with the dildos that drop as loot? Are they useful items?
No, you pick them up and you scrap them. Like they turn into whatever material that dildos are made out of. There is a dildo weapon though. So there is one. Go for it.
If we're wondering about the dildo industry and like when it crashed and stuff, have you tried selling dildos and how much do they sell for?
No, I had one of my upgrades for my character was to automatically craft any junk, and dildos count as junk, which I feel like don't count the dildos short, right? Like there's no need to like call dildos as junk. Let me just have that as a common item. But yeah, I don't know how much they cost. I assume they cost like 5 cents.
I'll do some investigation, see how much the dildos sell for.
Thank you.
And then we can figure out
kindafunny.com/you're wrong. How much
the dildo dark web you can get on and make big bucks.
Speaking of which, I still haven't gotten my pleasure sleeve in the mail, and I'm very upset about that.
Did you order one?
I didn't know you ordered.
I think Tim ordered them. Oh, no, I think Tim ordered them for the company.
Wow, so, what a boss.
Yeah, no, this one I'm saying. Story number 3, we're still not done with Cyberpunk. There's a Cyberpunk refund update. This is from Patrick Klepek on Twitter. He tweeted out the following. People are starting to get this response back from CD Projekt Red after emailing their help address for refunds of the game. The language is interesting. It doesn't tell you to request a refund from Sony anymore, so you're just supposed to wait. This is the exact message that people are getting back from Cyberpunk. It's an automated message. Dear Gamer, which I'm going to stop there. CD Projekt has got to stop with the Dear Gamer because I feel like it's never a good way to start off.
That's who they're marketing to, though. Like we talked about their whole like marketing process on the Gamescast, which you can find on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Like they are marketing to people who consider themselves gamers. All right.
I don't like it. Just call me a customer. Call me something else. Don't call me a gamer anymore.
Call me a piece of shit before you call me a gamer. All right.
Please. But yeah, they write this. Dear Gamer, this is confirmation that we have received your assistance request for refunding a console copy of Cyberpunk 2077. As this email was sent automatically, we kindly ask you to not reply. We'll get back to you as soon as possible, no later by the end of 2020, with information regarding next steps. If you own a digital copy of the game on Xbox, visit this Xbox support article, then they link to the article, for details on how to refund. If you own a digital copy on PlayStation, please wait for us to get back to you. For help with other Cyberpunk 2077 related matters, please visit our technical support website, CD Projekt Red Team. So there's your update if you're looking for that refund. Apparently on PlayStation, you got to wait for them to get back to you. Apparently on Xbox, you got to hit up Xbox support. And so we'll keep up with that as that story goes. This whole refund situation overall, let me say, is very ridiculous for how they're handling it. But I'm excited to see how it pans out for them. Story number 4. Actually, before I get to story number 4, we are late in the show, and so I'm going to tell you about our sponsors. Of course, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames where you can get the show ad free. And speaking of ads, this episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily is brought to you by Upstart. There's a lot of economic chatter right now about the state of the market. Is it recovering? How long will it take? Have we seen the worst? But if you're struggling to pay off high interest credit card debt, you can't wait for those answers. You need to take action. Now, with Upstart, there's actually something you can do today to help fight off high interest credit card debt. Upstart is a revolutionary online lending platform that knows you're more than just a credit score. Unlike other lenders, Upstart can reward you based on your job history in the form of a smarter rate. Upstart lets you skip going to the bank because it's completely online. They offer loans from $1,000 to $50,000 so you can consolidate your debt into one easy fixed rate payment. Upstart makes it fast and simple to check your rate. Since it's just a soft pull and won't affect your credit score, the hard pull happens if you accept your rate and proceed with your application. The best part, if the loan is approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day. Over 500,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards or meet their financial goals. Free yourself from the burden of high interest credit card debt and get back to using your money your way with Upstart. See why Upstart has over 6,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, and hurry up to upstart.com/kfgames to find out how low your Upstart rate can be. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes. That's upstart.com/kfgames. Your loan amount will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Not all applicants will qualify for the full amount. We're also brought to you by HBO Max. In true 2020 fashion, the holidays are going to look a little bit different this year. That's why we partnered with HBO Max to keep the spirit of togetherness alive with their library of films for the holiday season. Staying put with your quarantine crew for the holidays? HBO Max has the bingeable series for you. At home with your overbearing family, HBO Max has that movie to get lost in. Doing the holiday solo, HBO Max has the titles you'll want to discuss with your friends and family virtually. No matter what mood you're in this holiday season, HBO Max has something for you. HBO Max has so many classic holiday films now streaming, like Holiday Affair and A Christmas Carol. Enjoy one of the year's biggest movies in theaters and on HBO Max on the exact same day. Sign up for HBO Max to stream Wonder Woman 1984 and even more heroes like Titans, Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol, and Batman v Superman. Wonder Woman 1984 is in theaters and on HBO Max on December 25th. Sign up and enjoy even more hits now, like Game of Thrones, Euphoria, and Flight Attendant. Personally, actually not personally, Greg says he'll be watching The Last Christmas, The Family Stone, and of course, rewatching Die Hard again and again, all of which you can find on HBO via HBO Max. If that wasn't enough, December 25th also adds The West Wing, and December 28th is his Dark Materials Season 2 finale. Get cozy at home this holiday season by heading to hbomax.com now. Lastly, we're brought to you by Brooklinen. Some mornings you wake up feeling ready to pull the covers over your head and go back to sleep. I kind of felt that way. But of course, we got a job to do, and so I'm here. No judgment, of course, but let's make having the most comfortable sheets the reason why you want to go back to bed. You don't love your sheets? Brooklinen has you covered. Brooklinen was started by Rich and Vicky, who also tried to find beautiful home essentials that didn't cost an arm and a leg. And when they couldn't, they founded Brooklinen as the first direct-to-consumer bedding company. They work directly with manufacturers to make luxury available directly to you without the luxury level markups. Brooklinen has a variety of sheets, colors, patterns, and materials to fit your needs and tastes. Brooklinen has over 50,000 5-star reviews and counting, and is so confident in their product that all their bedding comes with a lifetime warranty. And Brooklinen is so much more than sheets. They've got comforters, pillows, towels, and even loungewear and more. You can buy sheets, bedding, pillows, all at once and save even more. Tim loves Brooklinen. He talks about how it matches his home. Greg always talks about how the Brooklinen towels cover his shame. He's a big fan of them. Don't wait. Do something nice for yourself. Go to brooklinen.com and use promo code GAMES to get 10% off your first order and free shipping. That's BROOKLINEN.com and enter code GAMES for 10% off your first order plus free shipping. brooklinen.com and use promo code GAMES at checkout. Story number 4. UK politicians call for action against PS5 and Xbox Series scalpers. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. A group of British MPs, and I believe that's members of parliament. Does that sound right, Gary? What are you?
That's correct, yes.
There you go. British MPs have called for legislation to prevent PS5 and Xbox Series X/S scalpers from reselling consoles for vast profits. 6 Scottish National Party tabled an early day motion on Monday calling for legislative proposals prohibiting the resale of gaming consoles and computer components at prices greatly above manufacturers' recommended retail price. Early day motions are motions tabled by members of parliament that formally call for debate in the House to draw attention to particular subjects of interest. Monday's motion, which has so far been signed by a total of 15 members of parliament, also calls on the UK government to make the resale of goods purchased using automated bots software favored by scalpers to circumvent retail queues and illegal activity. The MP suggests implementing legislative proposals similar to those introduced for the secondary selling of tickets, which require resellers to be transparent in regards to their identity and details of seating. The motion states, quote, new releases of game consoles and computer components should be available to all customers at no more than the manufacturer's recommended retail price and not be bought in bulk by the use of automated bots, which often circumvent maximum purchase quantities imposed by the retailer, end quote. It says that the action banning bots would, quote, deny unscrupulous vendors the chance to make themselves vast profits at the expense of genuine gamers and computer users, while also deterring fraudulent cyber criminal activity, end quote. Gary, are you all about this? Do you think it's worth making legislation to ban scalping?
Yes, absolutely. Good. Yeah, I'm sure if you've watched any of my previous commentary on this stuff, you know how I feel about this. I've talked about it on the Xcast, talked about it on Games Daily. It's awful. It's terrible. It's anti-consumer. It's driven, purely by, greed and avarice. And to me, it just inherently goes against like the basic social contract that, we're all supposed to kind of treat each other with fundamental decency, not trying to constantly kind of get over on one another and get rich at the expense of our neighbors. It's just awful. I really hate it, and I've been scratching my head as to what can be done to combat it at various different levels. Retailers have systems in place, but again, these scalpers have found ways to circumvent that. Maybe government legislation is the next step. I'm glad the British government isn't doing much right these days, but I'm glad they seem to be tackling at least this problem. When we here in the United States get a functioning government back on January 20th, maybe we'll do something about it as well. And I can't wait to see that happen. It's a common problem. We've been dealing with these issues now for a long time. So something has to change because there's a lot of gamers. A lot of gamers and kids and families and people that just want to get their hands on an Xbox or a PlayStation are not going to get one this holiday because they're all sitting in a fucking warehouse somewhere, being sold for 3-4 times their retail price, and it's absolutely disgraceful. It just makes me sad. It makes me despair about the whether or not people are fundamentally decent. There clearly are many out there who are not. If you are in the business of buying up PlayStations at retail in bulk so that you can sell them on to consumers at a massive markup just to enrich yourself, you're fundamentally just not a decent person. You're not a good person, and these people don't care about that. I've seen them on social media bragging about fuck you, I don't care as long as I get my money. They can all fuck. It really makes me angry. And I wish there were a way to fix it. I don't know if legislation is the answer, but it's one of the many avenues we should be looking at to try and cut out this disgraceful and antisocial behavior. And I hope it works. I hope they pull it off.
Yep, I 100% agree, and I think there will be people out there that will say that, hey, this is anti-capitalist or whatever, right? Like you're not allowing the market to speak for itself, but there is not really a perfect system when it comes to this shit, and I think it's worth implementing systems in order to counter where systems are failing. And so when people are scalping at the rate that they're scalping the PS5 and Xbox Series X, it is worth putting systems in place to counter that and not allow that to suffocate the market and not allow that to make it so that it is impossible to find these things. Any way to counter that and any way to make sure that the market works the way it's supposed to work and people are able to get their hands on these things and people are not able to profit off of taking advantage of a shitty situation, right? With the pandemic, with how difficult manufacturing is, with all of that, make it so. And so I think this is a good idea. My one question would be, how do you manage this? Like, how do you make it so that you can monitor and keep scalpers from still scalping shit? And I think that is going to be difficult, and that I don't necessarily have too much faith in. I feel like scalpers are still going to scalp whether it's illegal or not, but at least put regulations in place, make it difficult for people to do so, and scare people also.
You're never going to completely wipe it out because scalpers don't have to play by the rules. They're not driven, they're not hemmed in by any sense of kind of morality or fair play or the rule book. And in terms of the companies and the governments that are trying to regulate this, they do have a rule book. And so as long as one side's playing by the rules and the other isn't, it's going to be hard to do. But we should at least be doing everything we possibly can to make it as difficult for them as possible. Just make it to a point where it's just not worth the aggravation to do it, and they'll go find. And those same people will go find some other way to scam people. And it's like whack-a-mole. You whack a rat somewhere, it just fucking pops up somewhere else with some other shady scheme. But we're here to talk about video games, and right now this kind of bullshit behavior is affecting well-meaning people in the video game world. They just want to get a PlayStation or an Xbox. They or a 3080. It's happening in the PC world as well.
Yep.
You can't get your hands on a high-end graphics card right now because the bots are doing their thing over there as well. So it affects all of us. And it makes me sad. It just makes me a little bit depressed. I want to believe that people are fundamentally good. And I do believe that. But oftentimes every time I see a story like this, it kind of just chips away at that a little bit. And it just makes me sad, Blessing.
I 100% agree. Story number 5, Fortnite adds 120 FPS support and an Among Us inspired mode. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC, and I'm going to try and sum this up because we're late in the show, and I want to be able to make sure that the next show starts on time. And so, the latest Fortnite update has added 120 FPS support in Battle Royale and creative modes on PS5 and Xbox Series X/S. And so you'll be able to enable that in the settings menu, of course. Let's see here.
And of course, you won't be really able to utilize that unless you have 120 hertz TV or monitor.
Of course, you'll need the right monitor to make
which
that
I do,
happen.
and it's dope as fuck, Bless.
Oh, really? I didn't know you had 120.
Oh yeah, I got that OLED
monitor
with the 120 hertz. Let me tell you.
Oh, I'm very jealous.
No frame drops, man. It feels good.
I'm very jealous. Epic has also launched a new limited mode playlist called The Spy Within. Inspired by popular social deduction game Among Us, it'll feature a series of hidden identity games created by members of the Fortnite community. The Spy Within supports 10 players, including 2 spies and 8 agents, who start each round only knowing which team they are on. Spies bid to eliminate agents without revealing their identity, which they need to do before agents complete their objectives. And this is fun because I can't remember if you were there, Barrett, but there was a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation with our Fortnite group, and I was talking about how I wish they would put Among Us in Fortnite somehow.
I was there, and I thought you were an idiot.
Yeah, and lo and behold, it's happening. And so I'm trying this out. Barrett, are you willing to try it out with me?
I mean, we tried out We tried out Gun Game like a week or two ago. And here's the thing: it's like it's a fan created mode. I think in the creative mode that they're now spotlighting, which is cool. Shout out to the fans who are trying to get creative and bring in these new modes, paying homage to Among Us, paying homage to Gun Game from Black Ops and stuff. But it never feels quite right. So I don't know. I say we just play Among Us plus.
I mean, I'm down for that too. I like fan made stuff. I just like trying stuff out and seeing how creative people can be. I've recently gotten back into Dreams, and going back in there and seeing the genius that radiates out of people, it's super fun to me. And so I'm gonna check it out just for that reason alone. I don't expect it to be amazing, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a hit. We'll see. Our last
I just want to say I find it a bit annoying. It's a bit aggravating to me.
Which part?
Just the whole no. I mean, look, Fortnite's entire business model, Fortnite's entire success story is based on this, lifting ideas from upstart games.
Oh yeah.
So don't forget, Fortnite was a dead game. It was a dead game. No one was playing it, and then they saw what Battlegrounds was doing. Oh, let's try that. Let's put in a battle royale mode, and now, of course, Fortnite is where it is. It's happening again now. It's not like Fortnite's struggling or anything. It's bigger than it's ever been. But now they're looking at what's the next kind of upstart little indie game that we can turn into a big deal on Fortnite. This is a creator-owned creator mode game right now. But I guarantee you, if they see success, if they see money to be made here, it's going to get baked into full-on Fortnite. And it worries me because Among Us is a really cool game, and it's not the most original idea in the world. Werewolf and Mafia and things like that were around. In the tabletop, party game scene prior to that, and Among Us brought it into the video game space, and it's this incredible Cinderella story. Was it 3 devs, 4 devs that, you know, the game was kind of floating around there for like 2 years. No one really played it. And then it got discovered. Some streamers started streaming it. You know, the pandemic, you know, made us more interested in social games. And now it's winning, you know, Game of the Year awards and everyone's playing it and it's blown up. And it's just been this really heartwarming success story to see from a small indie team. So frankly, it makes me worried that when, you know, Fortnite, which is like the Amazon or fucking Walmart of the video game world, says, oh, that's a good idea, we'll take it. That it could, you know, what if this ends up like draining people away from the Among Us player base and killing Among Us right as it started to become successful? It worries me, and I don't like it.
That is a good point. Of like, because this style of game has been brought to video games, and Among Us made it popular a couple of years. Fortnite like wants to showcase a creator thing, but like, just a reminder, like Among Us didn't start this kind of game. Like this is existed.
No, I
before.
mentioned Werewolf and Mafia, and there's other games.
Yeah, but like this is happening because of Among Us, though.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and you're gonna. I just got an email from a PR company today pitching me on another game where I was reading the 2-paragraph description. Like, wait, this is Among Us, and you're gonna see this now in the same way that PUBG launched a whole world of battle royale type games. You're gonna see a whole world of Among Us type games trying to capitalize on the success.
Oh yeah. And I'm excited. I'm excited about the Among Us future, honestly. And like I'm with you, Gary. I understand how that can be a worry, right? If like this becomes a hit in Fortnite, then they adopt it somehow, and then that takes away from the success of Among Us. I have mixed feelings about it because I think Fortnite is very good at how they adapt stuff when they do. And so when you look at the evolution of Fortnite from the very beginning to what it's become now, like Fortnite is the biggest thing in the world because they've done such a good job of copying other games and iterating and innovating in some ways where they did battle royale because of PUBG and how successful PUBG was with doing it, and now they're way more successful than PUBG. Cool. All right, cool. Let's add in the respawn things.
Just one other thing. Your chat's annoying me right now, Blessing.
Mm-hmm.
People keep making comments in the chat about things I've already addressed. Oh, well, Among Us isn't an original idea either. There was Secret Hitler and Werewolf and Mafia. Yeah, I said that already. Oh, it's just the community mode that they're spotlighting. Yeah, I said that already. If I'm going to fucking read the comments in the chat, at least listen to what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're going to keep making comments on things that I've already addressed.
That's kind of going around today, Gary. YouTube comments are like that today. It's just comments are on one today, Gary.
Chat, behave. It's a two-way street. We got to respect each other. Respect Gary, and Gary will respect you.
Mutual respect.
All right, chat? Mutual respect here. Listen to what everybody's saying. We'll have a good time. Love each other. Story number 6. You can play Stadia on your iPhone now. This is from Damien. Actually, no, I'm not going to pull from Damien Wild because I'm going to pull from a tweet from Stadia. Today, they tweeted out, Stadia is now available on iOS devices. Yes, you read that right. Starting today, you can sign in to stadia.com on your Safari iOS browser and begin playing your favorite games. Try it for yourself today. There you go. You can't get a Stadia app on your phone, but you can play it via the browser. And so have fun with that.
You know what's getting missed in all of this Cyberpunk coverage is that apparently the Stadia version's decent because it's essentially, you know, the high-end PC version. And I don't know why Stadia isn't trying to make more of a meal of this. I read a review this morning. I read a review of Cyberpunk this morning. It was in The Guardian, which is, I think they have good games coverage. And it listed all the different platforms that Cyberpunk is available for. And it didn't even mention Stadia, which, you know, I think says a lot about, you know, the battle that Stadia has ahead of it in terms of garnering recognition. But this is a great opportunity for them right now. You know, it's PC version of Cyberpunk is the only version of Cyberpunk that is in any way viable right now. And Stadia is the only way into it unless you have a high-end PC, which, of course, most people don't. So I feel like they should be trying to, you know, make something out of it.
The thing that sucks for Stadia, though, is all the controversy around Cyberpunk. Like, if Cyberpunk came out and it was the darling that we all thought it was going to be, and it was a game that across the board was immaculate and was forward-thinking and was pushing the boundaries and doing all this stuff, and it had that launch on Stadia, I feel like that would be such a boost for Stadia. If on Stadia you can get some of the best performance right out of that, because it is just this big old computer that's sitting somewhere in Google offices. The fact that there's all this bullshit happening around Cyberpunk, I feel like on the Stadia side, it's probably a big bummer because they're probably looking at that and going, fuck, man, this is going to be our thing. This is going to be our shining example of a game that runs best here. And so I feel for them for that. But yeah, no, that is a good thing to point out that, like, yeah, Cyberpunk right now, probably worth it playing on Stadia over console, which I think is a crazy statement to make.
From what I'm hearing, it's not even close.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. But overshadowed again because of all the controversy, which sucks for Stadia. But
what if
Cyberpunk
saves Stadia?
It won't. It won't.
What a wild story that would be, though. You know,
I'm very excited to see if Cyberpunk does indeed save Stadia, but the answer to that is probably so far away. If I want to know what's coming out to mom and pop shops today, where'd I look?
The official list of upcoming software on each and every platform, as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily Show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah. Out today, we got MXGP 2020 for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Colossus Down for Xbox One. I guess just Xbox One. Synthetic Ultimate for Switch. Dealer's Life 2 for PC, and then PUBG Season 10 is out today on PC. There's a season exclusive map called Haven, which is PUBG's most dense battleground to date. For the first time in PUBG's history, this 1x1 map will feature 32 players descending into an urban environment rife with verticality and combat possibilities. And then CD Projekt Red has announced a special winter holiday event bringing fan favorite game modes and festive themed rewards to, wait for it, Gwent the Witcher card game on PC. PC, Android, and iOS. Celebrations start today and will run until January 5th, 2021. And so there you go. We had quite a few questions during the show proper, and so I'm going to skip reader mail and get right in to Squad Up. Jay writes in with a Squad Up on PS5/PS4 and says, I'm a returning Destiny player, and I'm one trophy away from the Platinum on PS4 and PS5. The last one I need is the Prestige trophy because I neglected to get it before they changed the unlock requirements. Also, getting into Call of Duty, returning to Avengers, and GTA 5 Online whenever that drops for PS5. You won't be alone in that, Jay, because I'll also be playing GTA Online when that comes to PS5, so I might add you. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to all. You can add Jay on PS5 and PS4 with the username JX-3. That is the letter J, the letter X -3. JX-3. Now it's time for kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. Rewrite and let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong. Montezuma gets me on this one and says, Blessings said to stop calling dildos junk. They are fake dicks, and the slang term used for them is indeed junk. And I can't argue with that. We do call dicks junk, and so I guess, yeah, dildos can be considered junk.
Wow, slim pickings, and you're wrong this week, huh?
Yeah, there are. Editorializing. Somebody compliments my beard, which I appreciate. Thank you so much for that. I needed that confidence boost today because I looked in the mirror before I took my shower, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know how this looks." And so
the fact that you mention it, it looks good. I like it.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, all this is editorializing, so we don't have any.
They can't fault us. We nailed it. We got everything right.
Yeah, we think we got everything right. Yeah, all this is editorializing, and so shout out to us, Gary. We nailed it.
Yeah, I usually do.
Tomorrow's hosts for the show are Greg and me. That's right. We're back at it like a bad habit. If you're watching this live on Twitch, after this is Internet Explorers with Tim and Nick. Of course, this has been Kind of Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So stick around for that. Otherwise, till next time, game daily.